Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome you to our next session in today's masterclass, and that is the industry talks from scanner vendors. So my name is Aisha Azam. I'm a post-fellowship cell path registrar at University Hospitals, Coventry and Warwickshire. In my current research role, I'm working on digital pathology validation and AI-based tools to facilitate diagnostic decisions. So for our today's session, I just wanted to quickly say that importance of knowing about the scanner technology and for digital pathology workflow is well documented. And here's an opportunity for everyone attending to learn about two of the scanner vendors and their products. So for the first talk, I am delighted to introduce Emma Hodgkinson, who is lead sales specialist for digital pathology for Fujifilm, and Simon Kimber, who is Business Development Manager for Digital Pathology at Sysmex.
Thank you very much. I'll just share my screen.
Thank you.
So you can see it, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for welcoming Simon and myself to this afternoon. It's been very interesting so far. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Fujifilm and our collaboration with Sysmex. So Fujifilm looked at the PathLAKE Plus requirements quite carefully, and we've taken what we think is the best breed approach, which utilizes the next generation scanners. So they're the P1000s that we're talking about, and also working with AI vendors, for example, IBEX, to offer an open platform to scanners, AI reporting, and with the ability to connect to multiple limbs. So we believe interoperability is absolutely key. So in digital pathology, this is one of the things we really try with Fujifilm. So we want to have a complete end-to-end solution. We want it to be agnostic, and we also want it to be able to integrate to the AI solutions. So a digital pathology solution has three different components. So there's the large capacity P1000 scanners that we're talking about. We also provide workstations, the dynamic software and AI integration. And then we also have infrastructure that's either in the cloud or on premise. So this is what you see when you look at a work list within Dynamics integrated with IBEX. Straight away, you see an alert to a case with a high probability of cancer. And then once you open the case, you have the AI results overlaid on your digital slide tray and the ability to launch IBEX in context to visualize the heat maps. So we chose to work with Sysmex because of their experience, knowledge, and their excellent reputation for customer support in pathology. And we chose the P1000 because of its ability to support lean working, its capacity, which is unrivaled, the ease of use, image quality, but mostly because it is perfect in a high throughput clinical environment. So Sysmex offer great support and have engineers across the whole of PathLAKE Plus. And we manage the solution. So we offer a complete solution, including a helpline. We manage the scanner vendors, software, AI, and infrastructure. Fujifilm provide a dedicated business relationship manager who help you make the most out of your investment throughout your entire digitization journey. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions. I'll kind of whiz through that.
We'll do questions at the end.
Oh, okay. Okay. No problem. Thank you.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, in every digital pathology lab workflow, probably the most critical step is the digitalization of the slides. If you want to determine what is the right solution for scanning either your daily laboratory routine samples or scanning your aging archive glass slides, and sending them to the PathLAKE or any other so-called slide lake, then the first requirement is, and probably this is the point where we can suffer the most of the irreversible mistakes, then the chosen digitalizing solution should be able to scan each and every different types and different conditions of your samples or glass slides. Only in this case, we can achieve 100% digitalization or full digitalization. The theory of digitalization, let's say, is simple. Then what makes it challenging for us? Well, we all know that those glass slides are variable in quality, in specimen times, in staining or technology. Like it is shown, there are differences in dimensions. Artifacts, scratches, markers above the tissue, air bubbles, edge on the cover slip, faint tissue, very low intensity staining, or overhanging clover slip, not yet solid mounting medium, or discolored fixative outside of the tissue. All of these issues are not rare and challenging the digitalization. And the samples itself are also very diverse. Large tissues, multiple small biopsy sections, TMA core, cytology, bone marrow, blood smears, or immunofluorescent staining. You may not prefer different scanner solution for slide type A and another solution for slide type B. The big differences among the scanners, there are big differences among the scanners, yes. The question is not whether the slide is appropriate for digitalization. The good question is whether the scanner can or cannot digitalize all of our slides or samples, or even more importantly, whether the digitalized slides produced by the scanner is appropriate or not for an AI analysis. We experienced the artificial intelligence analysis requires better image quality than the routine diagnosis. It does not mean only focus and resolution, but colors, background, the artifacts we used to call the noises. The challenge of slide lake scanner is how to satisfy the AI platform by the required good quality image. A slide lake therefore requires a kind of digitalization infrastructure that can support the next generation of AI algorithm the best. We call it the application-aware scanners. The pathologists define what sort of AI support is needed for their work. The AI platform can also specify the required image quality in the slide lake. The better the scanner is aware of the AI application, the greater the efficiency of the AI workflow. The application-aware scanner will magnify the usability of computational pathology. We, through the Histech, offer more than 10 different scanners. All of them are working on the same software platform. There are 500,000 slides scanned every day around the globe using our Pannoramic platform. When we created the Pannoramic 1000 solution, we are thinking of those situations and labs where the slide volume to digitalize per day is 2,000 or more, eventually 4,000 or 5,000. The slide loading capacity of the P1000 system is either 1,200 or 1,000 slides. It depends on the type of the slide holder rack, whether it holds 20 slides or another type of slide container that can hold 30 slides. 1,000 is a huge amount of slides, but the total unload and reload time is not much. It's about 4 minutes. It is very fast because the same folders from the stainer and cover slipper is used, and it does not require the slides to load, only the racks to load. And due to the extra 80 centimeter large loading door, it is very easy to access all the 1,200 slides in the same time. Both the standard 1" to 3" and also the popular 2" to 3" so-called mega slides are supported by the Pannoramic 1000. When scanning to a slide lake or data lake, the productivity matters a lot. A greater productivity on one hand requires high speed and high throughput, but on the other hand, the loading capacity is equally important. The speed matters, of course, because we usually have to digitalize a lot of glass slides per day. If we are working and if you are looking at a slide lake, we usually have a large amount of slides to digitalize. We reached the 2 slides per minute equation per unit due to several innovations: the flash scanning, the anti-vibration design, the parallel slide operation, and the dual stage. In case of, for example, 2 systems, your lab can digitalize 3,000 to 4,000 glass slides every day. However, in order to do this, the high speed is not enough. What really matters is the 24 hours productivity. How many slides can we digitalize in 24 hours? Productivity is a cost factor that determines the return of investment. Less scanner unit required per slide, the better ROI is achieved. If you are looking at the utilization of the scanner over 24 hours, we can understand how the scanner loading capacity influences the productivity. Everybody often starts the batch process in the morning right after the laboratory is open, because a lot of tissue preparation are completed by then. Without a very high capacity scanner, the smaller batch processes requires manual unloading, reloading continuously during the day. But after the laboratory is closed around 5-6 p.m., the capacity of the scanner gains even more importance. The reason is very simple. No one is available to reload the scanner in the middle of the night. Therefore, the larger the capacity, the more slides can be scanned over the night. As the laboratory closed for 14-16 hours every day, the overnight batch can produce more slides scanned than the daytime batch. During the day, the scanning speed determines the productivity. During the night, the scanner's loading capacity determines the productivity. And if it is not enough high, the utilization of scanner unit overnight is less than 50%. One Pannoramic 1000 unit can offer up to 2000 whole slide scanning in 24 hours. Why the scanner is application aware? To be able to work with the widest variety of slides, we continued our tradition to offer not only one, but one main objective inside the scanner. Application awareness requires greater resolution than the standard image resolution. We do believe that from the AI application point of view, the larger resolution is needed in several cases. The default objective is preferred for formally fixed paraffin-embedded slides, hematoxinosin staining, or for immunostaining. We also offer the second or a third additional main objective as an option, because we do not want that the resolution and image quality should be a compromise. The three different high-quality size plan apochromat objectives are ranging from 0.8 to 1.2 and offers 20x, 40x, and 8x resolution and water immersion scanning as well. The optional objectives are appreciated by cytology, blood smear, bone marrow, and molecular level of AI application. The multi-layer scanning option is a must for liquid cytology samples or non-well-prepared samples. They require multiple foci layers to optimize for image quality. The innovative Z-stack scanning model of us takes maximum 2.5 minutes in case of 7 layers. The number of layers can be, of course, increased up to 31. In order to avoid to generate a giant data, the unique extended focus algorithm scans in multiple Z layers, and at the end, it produced data size will be as low as the single layer scan. In this unique feature, the key for several samples, this is a very unique key feature for several types of samples. Output data format can also be selected either DICOM or VICTIF or other virtual slide formats. If the scanner works for AI, I mean digitalizing the slides into Datalake and prepare it for the AI algorithm, then AI can also assist the scanner to be uniquely calibrated and set the right scan profile for each individual slide. Earlier, the user could define and assign a scan profile for Rex or slide. Then, based on the barcode, the LIS system could tell the scanner about the preferred scan profile. However, the samples are not prepared equally, and the LIS system cannot tell which slides requires higher attention. Therefore, we introduced several AI-driven intelligent preview image analysis methodology. For example, to recognize the shape, the sample, the differentiate from the artifacts, then determine the scan area. Another intelligence is to identify the type of tissue, recognize the type of staining, and select the appropriate scan profile. Also decide the type of objectives, and also whether a single layer or extended focus scan mode will be utilized. There's another intelligence about the colors. And finally, the most important intelligence in the preview analysis is the focus intelligence, determining the amount of focusing point based on the tissue type and staining time, or locating the focusing point intelligently. All of these ingredients make the preview analysis so intelligent that human would not be able to manage it. And this preview intelligence is working so fast that every analysis can happen in real time while another slide in the stage is under scanning. Digitalizing without quality check would slow down the productivity. The post-scanning AI-driven quality check is responsible for two main things: whether everything on the glass is scanned and whether every part of the scanned image is in excellent focus. If the AI algorithm recognizes sufficient quality, it orders the rescan, and the same slide will be rescanned automatically. The auto rescan determines several options. It could be a higher quality scan profile assigned to the scanning, or it can be a difference in scanning freeze, for example, in case of disturbance was caused by a vibration effect, or rescan with a new focus map by increasing the number of focusing points if the slide is not well prepared, or rescan with multi-layer with extended focusing and producing a single layer virtual slide, which is equivalent to infinite focusing point when, for example, the sample was thick or multifocal scanning was needed. Thank you so much for today.
I can see one question, which is, please comment on the scanners used for hematologic bone marrow aspirate smear samples.
Yeah, happy to do that. Where did that come from, by the way, please?
Oh, I don't have a name from the attendee. It says anonymous. Sorry.
Okay, well, mystery questioner. Yeah, it's something that we've been focused on for several years. We've conducted pilot studies and a full trial of the use of 3D Histech scanning technology, particularly the high resolution, where you can achieve 80, 90 times magnification in a dry scan. And we've long thought, or we had long thought, that the image quality was certainly good enough to diagnose hematological disorders, because you need to see the cellular content, granules, chromatin, nuclear structure, cell inclusion bodies. And so we ran a trial under the guidance of Dr. Tim Farron at the Royal London Hospital, who led the trial and published the data. It was shown first at the British Society of Hematology in Brighton about 3 years ago, I think. So a poster is available if anybody wants it, summarising the studies. And more recently, in the northeast of England, under the guidance of Dr. Peter Carey, who I believe still works for UK NICWAS, we were able to demonstrate the use of high definition 3D Histech slide scanners in a hematological real world setting, if you like, where there was a shortage of reporting clinical hematologists within the region. And so they were able to scan images and do the reporting remotely, and share those images and diagnose remotely. And there is also an abstract available on that, produced by Peter Carey. So we've done the academic work, we've done the trial work, so we can confidently say that the high resolution options on the 3D Histech scanning settings enables you to reliably diagnose from the image that you create at that resolution.
Thank you. That's really interesting. So can I just ask, what would be the file size for these images?
Yeah, there's always a downside. The higher resolution, the longer the scan takes, the bigger the file you create. That's accepted in digital pathology. You'll be looking at upwards of 1 gigabyte, maybe 2 or 3 gigabytes, particularly if you're using Z-Stack on a bone marrow smear, where it's quite important to capture everything. So maybe a 5-layer scan would be appropriate in that. So yeah, it is big file sizes without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. And it can be useful for the other cytology sample types as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the microbiology smears that sometimes require high resolution, and cytology smears. So yes, it's very, very appropriate for those.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. We have another question. What low-cost scanners, where did it go? Yeah. What low-cost scanners do you have for a small pathology service in low-income countries?
Okay, we have a range of scanners. We like to think we have a slide scanner for every work throughput and every scenario. Working down from the P1000, the next instrument we have is the P250, which, as the name suggests, is a 250 slide load. Below that, there is the scan, which is a 150 slide load. Below that, there is the MIDI, which is a 12 slide load. And below that, there is the desk, which just takes a single slide at a time. Okay, so we like to think we got a slide scanner for every application. The interesting point is that the actual scanning technology, the camera, the light, is consistent throughout all the slide scanners. So that's not compromised. It's just the case and the slide load that will vary. The internal workings are the same throughout.
Interesting. Thank you.
Okay.
We have another question now. Are there any commercial institutions that we can send slides to for scanning? Considering we don't have one, what is the cost implication?
I can say that you can send them to Sysmex UK very soon. We're just developing our slide scanning service. So a little bit of a plug there. But other than that, honestly, I don't know. They must be out there. I mean, I would suggest contacting any university that has a life sciences department and a microscopy suite, they may have slide scanners, and they'd be happy to scan them for you for a fee.
I think David has raised his hand.
Sorry, Aisha, I was trying to put a question in the Q&A, but I can't seem to do it as a panelist. I just wondered if you could run through how you run the IBEX AI on the Fujifilm Sysmex 3D system. Is the data exported to the cloud for computing, and if so, how does that fit into the workflow?
I'll let Emma ask that one.
I think it is not exported to the cloud as such. It actually stays within the solution. But I think I'm going to have to come back to you on the exact technicalities, because I'm not 100% clear about that, I'm afraid. Is that okay, David?
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just interested to know how it was triggered, really. So is it I'm assuming it's an IBEX prostate tool, and I would imagine it's triggered by specimen type prostate. Is that the case? And I presume that comes from the LIMS end, does it?
Yeah, I believe that's the case. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, well, it'd be good to catch up at some point and go through.
Yeah, or I believe IBEX are going to be on the other meeting. So maybe that's a question you could ask them directly. Is that okay?
Yep, yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah, IBEX will be in the Thursday's meeting, and so will be Paige. There is another question related to that, I think. I'm going to leave it to Aisha.
Yeah, we have one more question. So we have experienced missed tissue, mostly fat in breast cases when scanning. We use some scanners where we can manually edit the area that is scanned, but in other scanners, they do not have this feature. Okay, so that's all the question is. I think the person is trying to ask that in 3D Histech, what sort of features are there to deal with those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in principle, the tissue detection on the 3D Histech systems is based on an AI principle. So it's looking at contrast, it's looking at color, it's looking at shape, and that makes it a very reliable capture of the tissue that needs to be scanned for 95% of the slides that you're likely to handle. In the event that you've got something a little bit exceptional, then it's possible to adjust the sensitivity of the tissue detection and create a different scan profile for very faint tissue if they are, if that is an issue for you. But so you can manually intervene and either adjust the sensitivity, or you can manually select the tissue to be scanned yourself, okay, and override the instrument detection.
All right, thank you. I think that's all the questions we had. Thank you so much, Emma and Simon, for an excellent and stimulating talk.
You're welcome.
It's time for coffee break, so we all can go for the virtual coffee break now.
Yes, thank you very much, Aisha, for chairing that session, and thank you to our speakers from Fujifilm and Sysmex. We do have a few open questions. If any of the panelists would like to dig in and try and answer any of those questions during the break, after the break, but I think we've all earned our break. So let's have a 10 minutes break. We'll resume in just about 10 minutes.
So this session is the industry exhibition. My name is Simon Graham, and I'm a senior research fellow in computational pathology, working with PathLAKE. And in this session, we're going to have 3 different AI vendors, where first of all, we'll have Paige AI, then Visiopharm, and then IBEX. So looking forward to those talks and their developments in the area of computational pathology. So it will be the same format. So there'll be Q&As. There'll be a Q&A session following the 3 talks. So please go ahead and put your questions into the Q&A window, and then we'll field those questions afterwards. So with that, first of all, I'd like to welcome Paige AI. So with Paige AI, we have Dr. Peter Hamilton, who's Chief of Staff and European Director, and also Dr. Margaret Horton, who is the Europe Business Lead. So brilliant. So Margaret's already sharing her slides. So whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. My name is Margaret Horton. I'm leading clinical partnerships and business development activities across Europe and the UK for Paige, and I'm pleased to join today's masterclass. Nice to see so many familiar faces and names. And today I'd like to introduce Paige to you. Paige was founded in 2017 from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City, has unique access to one of the largest data lakes of over 25 million whole slide images and diagnostic reports. Today, we are a team of 91 employees worldwide and are particularly growing in the UK and Europe, also in terms of product development, data science, AI scientist functions as well. And Paige has developed unique proprietary deep learning technology that is delivered through the cloud. So this is an example where on a histological image, the areas of diagnostic interest are highlighted. And this is to fulfill our mission and our aim of deriving insights from tissue digital images, but also unlocking precision treatment pathways individual to patients. And for this, we have today commercially available on the market various products I would like to highlight today. So I would like to begin with Paige Prostate. Paige Prostate is available worldwide. It has CE marking for cancer detection and a separate CE mark for grading and quantification. And it's also the first product in AI for pathology with FDA breakthrough designation. And this is for grading, detecting, and measuring prostate cancer. Also available today is Paige Breast. This is also for detection of cancer with a CE mark for that. Our systems are delivered through a full focus viewer. This is cleared for primary diagnostic use, and it also allows for prioritization of cases and slides and visualization of the AI results alongside reporting features. Our system is cloud-based, so there is no IT or infrastructure burden, and we also offer for our customers storage, computational, and archive solutions as well. So for today in our limited time, I would like to discuss 3 success factors for clinical AI in real practice. And they are clinical adoption, human AI performance, and generalizability. And I would like to begin with clinical adoption. So having successfully launched products globally, for Paige, we see this on multiple axes. One is, of course, the clinical credentials for clinical use with our CE marks. And also, more importantly, even is clinical validation on real-world data from independent researchers and studies. So if I use the example of Paige Prostate, to date, it has been studied in independent studies external to initial validation of the algorithm on over 3,600 biopsies. And this is an example of some of our peer-reviewed studies that have been published. I would like to also highlight 3 real-world examples that have been recently announced publicly. One being in March at the Europathology External Quality Assurance Scheme in the UK. Paige Prostate was successfully piloted to adjudicate challenging cases in the virtual meeting this year. And we've also very recently announced Oncoclínicas in Brazil is using Paige Prostate routinely for their work, and Informed Diagnostics in the US is also using this. So again, real world data, real world clinical use is key. The second success factor I'd like to highlight is the human AI performance. And I think this was very well elucidated in this past February in Nature Medicine in a paper highlighting how important it is to study this at an early stage. And also there's a safety angle beyond in silico validation. How do these algorithms perform in the hand of clinical end users? And for this, Paige has pioneered assisted read studies and published on this. And I'd like to highlight our paper last year in Modern Pathology, looking at Paige Prostate in particular. We've done 3 clinical studies in this assisted read setting. and have used this to demonstrate time savings and efficiency gains, as well as reduction of diagnostic errors. And I'd like to highlight, this is one of the results from that paper. So this is the sensitivity measured of pathologists without assistance in identifying foci of cancer, resolved according to the size of the foci. And with the assistance of the AI, it was shown that the sensitivity of the pathologist was increased significantly, with the greatest gains in the smallest foci of cancer. So clearly that clinical utility and opportunity to reduce diagnostic errors. Also, an important consideration here is user interface and usability. And for Paige Prostate, this is why design is key and how results are presented to end users. So one example I can highlight is the conventional heat map is used with the tissue overlay over the tissue. And what our user research has uncovered is that this actually obfuscates the tissue and makes it difficult to evaluate morphology such as Gleason patterns. So through extensive user research and also validation of future-looking designs, we were able to develop our proprietary tissue map, which is essentially an inversion of the heat map. So instead of obfuscating the tissue that has concerning morphology, we fog out the benign tissue. All of this is completely adjustable, but we believe the presentation of results to the end users has the potential to influence diagnostic decisions and is very important consideration. Thirdly, I would like to highlight the topic of generalizability. I think this topic could be a masterclass unto itself, but it is an important topic, and the very recent paper from last week that was published in Nature Medicine examined that chasm between algorithms in development and their promise in silico and the real-life implementation, and identified the single most important obstacle is generalizability. Now, I think there's a lot of discussion on the exact definition. For the purpose here, it refers to clinical performance of an algorithm on external unseen cohorts of data, external to the training set, and also without any specific calibration or refitting or tuning and modification of the algorithm. And Paige has achieved this unique capability of generalizing, and that's along multiple axes. So one example is across image formats. So in this example, the system was trained on Leica full-slide images. And in this test, the algorithm had never seen a Philips image, however, was able to identify and mark up the tumor. So this unique attribute has been obtained through how we've trained and developed our deep learning system. It's not in a supervised, annotated approach, but rather multiple instance learning. And more importantly, we've demonstrated generalizability across patient cohorts. So really on independent data, but also global independent researchers. So in our initial validation, this was published in Nature Medicine in 2019, we were able to demonstrate with a precursor of today's system, clinical performance also on over 800 sites of data. More recently, in peer-reviewed literature, I'd like to highlight a few publications. This is on Paige Prostate. The Journal of Pathology, just last week, went into print, the study in Oncoclínicas in Brazil. And here, a perfect negative predictive value at the patient level. So in this study, 4 cases of cancer were uncovered that had been missed by consensus. And these researchers modeled that as a screening tool, Paige Prostate would have saved them over 60% of time in terms of diagnostic resource time. Another study in the subspecialist setting, very recently published from Yale, also demonstrated very high negative predictive value as well as specificity. And on another study, the modern pathology study in that assisted read setting, also clinical performance levels. I would like to emphasize that all of these studies were done without any modification or site-specific tuning of the algorithm. So this is really the performance. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your attention. And please, if you have any questions, please reach out. I can also provide some more information, point you to our publications, and we can demonstrate our system to you as well. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Margaret. So Next, we're going to move on to Visiopharm. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Jim Berry, who's a sales manager at Visiopharm. So whenever you're ready, Jim, please start sharing your screen.
Hopefully you can see my my green screen now.
We can't see it yet.
All right, it says I'm sharing. How about now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, so as Simon mentioned, I'm Jim Berry from Visiopharm. I'm the clinical sales manager here in the UK. And just a quick introduction as to who Visiopharm are. So Visiopharm have been working in the image analysis space for the best part of 20 years now. We were founded by Michael and Johan back in 2002. Originally looking at image analysis of retinal photography, but we very quickly moved from retinal photography into digital pathology, and we had our first patent in 2007. Since 2010, we've had 2,000 publications, peer-reviewed publications published. In 2013, we launched our App Center. 2014, we launched our Clinical App Center with our CIVD validated applications. Initially, our breast panel, so we've got 7 years experience working within the clinical landscape as well. So originally started off in academia and biopharma. I think now over 90% of the top biopharmas use Visiopharm's image analysis platform as well in the research platform. In 2018, we launched Visiopharm UK. That's when I joined the team. In 2019, we were awarded with a substantial Global Company of the Year award. We've sold over 750 licenses across 40 different countries by 2019, and in 2020 we signed up to some significant partnerships within across the landscape. As I'm sure you can imagine, been around working in digital pathology for the last 20 years. We have multiple partnerships and different integrations into different workflows on the horizon as well. So it's an overview of the general diagnostic workflows as it stands today. This is a slide that probably looks quite familiar to a lot of people, a very analog process. But as we're all aware, the reason we've all logged in today, there are issues with the analog or manual techniques, and we're kind of reaching now the limitations of what's possible with human operators, and we're reaching the limits of what's capable with due to the increasing increasing number of biomarkers, the complexity of the biomarkers, the increasing cancer incidence rates, the need for objective quantification. So we're kind of reaching a bit of a perfect storm, ever increasing workload, ever decreasing workforce. I think the majority of pathologists here in the UK are approaching retirement within the next 10 years. So it's a bit of a perfect storm. So fortunately, a lot of the landscape is now moving towards digital. So now we have access to digital images, and we have digital pathology slides read and the digital scanners. We've got access to a lot of the data that's embedded within these stages. So allowing us to go digital allows us to use tools that have been developed in parallel to overcome a lot of these barriers that I mentioned previously. So now we've got some access to some really fantastic artificial intelligence systems that weren't previously available for tissue analysis. And we can start to address things like automated batch processing, tissue microenvironment analysis, standardized, validated, precision data. We can start to integrate into existing data management systems that you find in a clinical workspace. So we can start to address a lot of problems and answer a lot of questions in the clinical workspace, and answer questions such as, how invasive is the tumor? Can I identify metastasis within lymph nodes? What are the regions of most proliferation? What is the H-score within the tumor area? And what is the HER2 status of the tumor? And we answer those questions with our diagnostic apps. So an example of some of our applications, how invasive is the tumor? So as many of you will be well aware, it's really important to distinguish between invasive tumor and non-invasive tumor when we are reporting breast cancer slides that are stained with ER, PR, HER2, Ki67. So Visiopharm have developed a CIVD application that does just that. What are the areas, what are the regions with most proliferation? again, Visiopharm have developed an application, CIVD validated application that does just that with our heat map. What is the H score within the tumour area? Again, we have another CIVD application that does just that. And what is the HER2 status of the tumour? So these are a few of the questions that we're getting asked by clinical customers, and hence why we've developed the applications to answer these. So our latest and greatest and smartest application would be our metastasis detection application. So Visiopharm developed a CIVD certified AI deep learning application. So deep learning is the kind of latest generation of artificial intelligence and the smartest version of artificial intelligence. So we've developed this deep learning application that's been trained to detect metastasis in H&E stained lymph nodes that are associated with both breast and colon. Enables pathologists to not only detect the areas of metastasis in lymph nodes, but it can also order those and identify and assess the metastasis based on relevant features for either breast or colorectal. And this way of working with the metastasis detection application, the idea is essentially we use it as a pre-screen to analyze the slides before the pathologist ever even opens the slides. And by using this workflow, if we can imagine, let's say the example on the screen, a breast case that's cut up into 10 samples, and in this example, 4 of the slides, 4 of the 10 are positive and have some metastasis on, and the other 6 are to show completely normal healthy tissue. But if you can imagine a colorectal lymph node resection, I think it's a minimum of 12 slides they tend to cut into, sometimes 20, sometimes 30 slides. And if you imagine only 1 or 2 of those slides had any metastasis on, it would be a much benefit to the pathologist if we can show you those slides first. So with this triaging step, that's something that we can now do. So hopefully, I know it's only a 10-minute presentation, but hopefully, do we have a couple of minutes to show the platform itself as well? How many minutes?
Go ahead. You've got 2 more minutes, so that's perfect time.
2 more minutes. Okay, let me. Oh, where's my window to change screen? So. Sorry, just give me a second. Stop share. In fact, I'll be very quick, so I know we're short on time. There we go. See, this is an example of a H&E slide that I've just ran the analysis on, so we can see the metastasis there. I know it's quite an easy one to detect, but if I go into just a HER2 as well, I'll be very quick. So if we just show, say, a nice and easy one, run the HER2 app there. We can see, I think the vast majority of pathologists would agree this is quite an easy one to score as a 3. And we can see the image analysis will bring up those results very quickly. And if I try and grab a more difficult slide, so if I see that one. So again, I'm doing it quite manually now, but the idea is this is all automated and runs automatically in the background. So I think a lot of pathologists might lean towards a 2 on something like this one, but with our algorithms, we can really try and skew it so it has very limited results set on a 2, and it pushes towards 1s or 3s. And we can see this score, we've scored it as a 1. We know from this score as well, it was scored as a fish negative as well. So I think that's probably taken me to the end of my time. It's always difficult to try and get a lot of information across in only 10 minutes, but I hope that's given a good overview.
Brilliant. Cheers, Jim.
No problem at all.
And well done on doing that quick demo in very quick time.
No problem. Thank you.
So there's a few questions coming in, so please continue to send those in via the Q&A window, and then we'll move on to those after the next talk. So with that, the next speaker will be Mr. Stuart Shand from IBEX, who's the Chief Commercial Officer. So it looks like you're already showing your screen, so that's fantastic. So whenever you're ready, go ahead, please.
Great, thanks everybody. Hope you can hear me, Simon.
Yep, loud and clear.
Great. So yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Great to be connected to everyone again. Joining me today on the call is Richard Nicholson. Richard is leading our activities within the UK. And myself, I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at IBEX. Our contact information here, I'll show it again at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to get in touch with us. I think the opportunity of what we've been discussing today, seeing the research build into some of these studies and pilots that we've seen, is opening up such a great opportunity within pathology. Digital allowing us to drive growth in a way that we've never been able to see before, drive standardization, drive productivity at the same time as eliminating errors. And one of the things that we feel particularly proud about at IBEX is that we're living this every day. Here, a great image, Dr. Sanabria with Medical Director Dr. Santa reviewing prostate on a screen, 100% digital lab, supported by AI technology as parts of their workflow. As a company, then, this is what IBEX does. So we focus on clinical grade AI, and our goal is to be able to support pathologists in driving accuracy and efficiency within diagnostics, but importantly, bringing this additional insight. The diagnosing of a case is much more than whether there's just cancer, yes or no. And with our strong AI technology, we're able to bring in these numerous clinical features to be able to support drive both accuracy and efficiency to the highest levels. We were the first company to deploy AI in a live clinical setting. This lab has been live since 2018, so quite some experience here now that we can bring. The lab that started in 2018, these have now grown. We have deployments across the world. These are customers who are deploying AI in a live clinical setting. It's being used in a routine way. We have created a number of very strong partnerships with industry leaders across the digital pathology industry. You'll have seen today a very exciting partnership with Indica Labs was announced with IBEX. And I know 2 days ago, you saw a great demonstration of what the IBEX technology looks like when it's embedded into the workflow of the Inspirata platform, as you saw from Emma from Fujifilm. So being able to not only develop the strong AI, but being able to, I would say, bridge those interoperability barriers is something that we have been able to do very well, meaning that it doesn't matter what scanning platform or workflow platform you have chosen or choose to select, we will be able to support you. Some examples of some of the customers who are live today. Core Plus, we saw them at the beginning, first lab in the US to implement AI in a routine way. 100% digital, all of their prostate and breast run through the AI. Top right, LDPath, serving 25 trusts within the UK, also using our AI capabilities. Bottom left is Medipath. They have digital and AI deployed network-wide, 9 sites, 100% of their prostate and their breast work there being supported by AI workflows. And then bottom right actually is that first lab that went and implemented AI in a routine setting. It's Maccabi. They've moved from prostate to breast and have just recently moved to going 100% digital, having purchased a bank of scanners there. In addition to this, very proud also being from the UK myself, for IBEX to have been awarded one of the NHS AI awards, the only pathology company to have been recognized there, and really proud of the work that is ongoing here, partnering with the people at Imperial, but also with David Sneed and the team at Coventry and Warwick, which we are really, really excited about. Clinical grade means that the systems have to be validated. We have performed many validation studies. A select few have been put here today. The important thing is that the system is always performing at incredibly high levels of accuracy. And these levels of accuracy have been able to not only detect a cancer, but have actually allowed us to measure these productivity gains. So different to being able to, I would say, model it and think about what's being possible, really being able to achieve it. And these results leading to successful business cases for network-wide deployment. In terms of publications, great study that we did together with UPMC, as a Leica deployment there, published in the Lancet, showing, again, really high levels of accuracy in terms of cancer detection, but going beyond this into the insights, the Gleason, the perineal invasion, et cetera, et cetera. And then, of course, this all backed up with very robust studies for the CE IVD. One of the studies that was published or presented recently was the one at Medipath. Here, and I had the full study that I would happily share if anyone would like to reach out. It was a very, I would say, comprehensive study put together, large numbers of data, 3,628 slides in total, going through various stages, training to make sure people are familiar with the technology, and then running this through into piloting and testing. Performed across different labs to make sure that any variabilities are taken into account there. True time motion measurements taken both on the microscope, also when working with AI, and then being able to pull all of this information together to be able to see the impact that was there, not only on accuracy, but also on efficiency, and then going beyond efficiency to improvements in turnaround time. The system you can see here is being able to classify these slides, provide clues as to what a particular case contains, the work lists, slide viewers, and then classifying the slides within those in terms of benign or cancer or borderline to help drive that workflow. An important element of this is also being able to use the AI results to pre-order immunohistochemistry, how we were able to achieve those improvements in turnaround time, and going beyond the cancer detection to other non-cancerous findings such as high-grade PIN, inflammation, atrophy, et cetera, So bringing those capabilities to maximize that accuracy and efficiency. The results, are impressive. I mean, measuring 27% improvements in efficiency, leading to 37% productivity gains. And I think this goes very well to what we said earlier in terms of the perfect storm that is there and the need for tools to be able to help drive efficiency to help us deal with how the pathology market is at these times. Important here to see as well, not only improvements in efficiency, but also some missed cancers, being able to take slides that on a microscope have been diagnosed as benign, using the power of the AI technology to detect these regions to ensure that in live deployments they are reported correctly, and importantly that the patients are receiving the correct treatment. Various numbers of features can be detected: cancer, Gleason grading, perineal invasion, high-grade PIN, some examples in prostate, invasive cancer, TILs, low-grade, high-grade, DCIS, angiolymphatic involvement. So the power here very clear for strong AI and the value that it can bring towards the pathology workflow. So to summarize then, I think that 4 main pillars here are important when thinking about really deploying AI within the workflow. The first is quality, high quality algorithms supporting that diagnostic flow and being able to remove some of that objectivity. Taking then this power and making sure it's interoperable, allowing the AI to work with whichever workflow solution and scanner solution that you have chosen. We support that by having a very comprehensive API to make sure that interoperability can happen, and then being able to capture these results and bring that back to where your reporting is done. These combined help drive those efficiencies, improving the reporting efficiency, improving the turnaround time, many automated measurements and detection capabilities in there. And these 3 things combined are what are leading to improved confidence. for pathologists, for patients, for the NHS service in general. My contact details, Richard's contact details. I think I'm 10 seconds over time. Simon, I hand it back over to you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Stuart. So now we'll have a look at some of those questions in the chat. So this is now going into the coffee break as well. So for the next 15 minutes during the coffee break, we'll go through some of those questions. So if you have any more, please continue and put those into the chat window, the Q&A window, sorry, and we'll go ahead and look into some of those. So first of all, we've got a question from Andre, and this is to all of the vendors. So let's go ahead and read that out. It says, how do you envision a role of publications reporting performance of your algorithms in the scientific journals, major or minor importance, required for regulatory approval or just needed generally? So long story short, what do you think the importance are of publications for product development? So should we first ask that to the team at Paige AI?
Sure, I can start. I do think it's probably a matter of taste, but I would love to ask pathologists this question. But for us, it is very important because this is a field where clearly people are well read, and that those proof points are important. But it's really that it's at independent sites in live clinical scenarios, and having that in the peer-reviewed domain is very important for us.
Okay, brilliant. I see you're on the line as well, Peter. Is there anything you would like to add?
Yeah, just to echo what Margaret has already said. I think being able to demonstrate that the technology is built upon strong scientific principles, that it stands up to scientific scrutiny from in the peer-reviewed sector, I think is absolutely critical in this space. It's not just about marketing, but it's about testing this thoroughly and being able to demonstrate to the scientific community that this works and works for real. So I think it's absolutely critical. It does also help considerably when it comes to regulatory clearance of the products as well, to show that you've taken that extra step and kind of put out the results and the data into the scientific community for scrutiny and for analysis, and that it stood up to peer review and has been published in top high-ranking journals. Absolutely critical for companies that are active in this space, in my view.
Great, thanks, Peter. So now, if we could ask the same to Jim at Visiopharm.
Yeah, I completely agree with Peter's sentiment there. It's absolutely critical that it does go through that process. At Visiopharm, because we've got a strong academic and biopharma background, all of our CIVD applications would naturally start as research use only applications as they go through the development and through the roadmap. So it's part of the journey to get to the CIVD approved status. It would naturally be included in multiple publications, but it's something that we do think is kind of really important and not something that you'd want to sidestep at all. So yeah, it's absolutely a critical part of the journey. And to be honest, you wouldn't really get to the CIVD level until it's been really robustly tested anyway. So it's kind of, even if it's something you didn't want to do, you'd almost do it almost out of necessity, really. But certainly it is something that Visiopharm put a lot of credence on, and with our 2,000 plus publications, it kind of shows that the scientific background is something that we would think is really important, really.
Brilliant. And so Stuart and Richard, do you agree? And maybe you can shed some light on whether that's been easier to get some regulatory approval with the help of publications.
Yeah, so I agree with what's been said. I mean, I think that we're also, this is a new market, right? So I think it's important to educate. I think to educate, the best way to do that is through peer-reviewed journals. That's the best way to get it to the community in a way that the community believes. And I think that these then become very powerful tools towards the regulatory bodies. I mean, they're also learning, and to be able to have this depth that the industry is creating of these publications. Of course, you know, we have great publications in the Lancet that has been widely shared, and I think that with the industry as a whole working on great numbers, and we've heard many in just the last 30 minutes, it really shows how quickly this industry is moving. And I think that in turn will help, you know, speed up the regulatory elements of it.
Great. So there's a question that says, any plans for neuropathology? But maybe I can try and generalize that question. So I guess a more general question would be, how would you choose which products to develop in the future? Is that after a chat with a team of pathologists? Of course, there's been talks about breast tumor metastasis detection and quantification of immune markers. So how would you go on to actually deciding which product to develop? So maybe we can start with, we'll go for the same order. We can go for Paige first.
Perfect. So great question. And I think, one place to start is a chat with pathologists, but clearly there's different things to investigate. For us, it's really about the unmet need and solving a clinical diagnostic challenge. And that has informed a lot of our choice of what to launch now and what's coming on the near term as well. Would you like to add to that, Peter?
Yeah, I suppose I can let everybody know that we've just gone through a fairly extensive program at Paige, talking to well over 50 pathologists globally to really scope out what the roadmap should be. So that's identifying the really challenging areas that pathologists have in routine practice, the areas where they've got the biggest workload, the sectors where there's the biggest backlog, and certainly in countries like the UK. And this is what's really helping us prioritize and define what our roadmap should be, which is pretty extensive. And as Margaret has already said, we're growing R&D teams to cope with that roadmap of new applications in AI. And yeah, you're going to see a lot of activity over the course of the next few years in terms of releasing new capabilities and new products to the market, but based very much on solid evidence that we've been gathering from labs across the world.
Great, thank you. So now on to Jim. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I echo a lot of what's already been said, really. The voice of the customer is always the most important thing. We have regular voice of customer feedback sessions and listen to the market to them to guide us as to which direction to go in. And there's generally a couple of different ways to consider it, really. There can be a high volume study where you make potentially a small gain on each study, but because it's a high volume study that's undertaken quite a lot, then the gains are there. Or it can be you can look at it a different way, where it's a study that's done less frequently, but manual approaches are very difficult. For example, scoring PDL1, for example, is quite a difficult procedure to do. I think the guides on how you need to quantify it, the book that comes with it is about 100 pages long. So, you know, there are some tests that are very difficult to do. So even though they wouldn't be as widely used as colorectal, prostate, some of the biomarkers just kind of go hand in hand with automation, just because of the complexity of the scoring paradigms that are associated with them. So there's a lot of different, I mean, to be honest, if you had a magic wand, you know, you develop apps for everything, but it is a case of prioritizing. It's where do you find the gains for the end user? Is it a small gain of something that's done very widely, or is it a big gain on something that's done very more locally? But it's a case of weighing it up, really, and figuring out where the biggest impact will be to the market, really. And like I say, you can only do that by getting out there and speaking to different labs, speaking to different pathologists, and seeing where those bottlenecks are.
Okay, brilliant. So do you think it's a case of maybe having a combination of trying to pick some of those lower hanging fruits and then also combine that with potentially some of those algorithms that will have an impact also in terms of maybe a novel application? Do you think it's maybe a combination of both of those things?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. It's both really. Obviously, it is an emerging market, so it is a case that you want to get out there as wide and far as possible. And that is the lower hanging fruit, but you also really want to address the things that are where the real pains are and the real bottlenecks are in the market as well. So even if there's an application that's going to be used quite infrequently, but it's an application that's really enabling a biomarker that's very difficult to do manually, then there is obviously a desire to help there as well. So it is a balancing act, knowing which ones to where to prioritize your research and development. But again, it's as I mentioned, it's something you can only do with really thorough understanding of what the market's telling us, really.
Brilliant. So maybe, Stuart, if you would like me to, I'll go with another question now. So then you can go first if you're happy with that.
That's fine.
So what about, what do you think are the regulatory landscapes for digital pathology? Actually, this wouldn't be applicable to you because this is for people in the US. So let's go for a different one. Okay, so let's go for, okay, let's make sure it's because we've only probably got one question left, so let's make sure it's a good one. Let's go for, it's more of a pathology question. Okay, how about?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to maybe just add, because I think one of the things that, so I agree with what everyone said. The voice of customer is key, and I think that pathologists' involvement and the challenges, knowing where pathologists are particularly good, where AI can be particularly good, bringing these things together, and then going beyond just scoping the pathology community, but having these very quick feedback loops, right? I mean, the fact that we have many pathologists who are using AI every day, they see different opportunities, different challenges. And I think that being able to work in a very agile way, which means that this can come back in, allows us to get to something really very powerful very quickly. And that's certainly something that our product management team has put into this very complex matrix, which of course I don't understand as to how we select what comes first in terms of new products. But then when we present this to the pathology community, the understanding on why it's been selected is there, which is good.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Stuart. So I think with that, we've come to the end of the session. So I'd like to thank again all of the speakers, some really interesting developments there in the computational pathology space, and looking forward to seeing what's in store in the future.
Welcome to this final session, which is a series of talks by our industry partners, kicking off with a talk by Katie McGinley, who is from Indica Labs, and I would be very interested to see what the content of these talks is. So Katie, if you want to take over and present your slides, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I'd just like to thank the PathLAKE teams for organising this excellent event and inviting us to talk with you today. So I work with the clinical team at Indica Labs, and as this is a relatively short presentation, I've added my email on screen. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to give a bit of background about Indica Labs, about our products, and how we support our clinical customers with the deployment of AI in analysis. As a very brief background on Indica Labs, the company itself was founded in 2011. It's a US headquartered business. And for the last decade, we have really focused on the supply of user-friendly, intuitive, and performant image analysis software for digital pathology. We have a full range of products, which I'm going to go into, and they all sit together within a full ecosystem. And the thing that they're centered around is image analysis and AI. So Halo is our flagship image analysis platform. When we launched this 10 years ago, it completely changed the landscape of digital pathology. It was really the first time that analysis development and algorithm development was accessible to the wider pathology community. It wasn't reserved just for programmers and AI data scientists. Over time, the products evolved with our customers' needs, with the evolution of the market, and in line with technology developments. We expanded our tool sets. So the Halo platform expanded and developed in line with more new and novel scientific discoveries. We added on Halo AI, a tool which allowed our customers to harness deep learning and neural networks to build their own tissue segmentation and nuclear classification tools. We added on peripheral tools as well to support the workflow of our customers who were using image analysis and AI. And these adjacent tools really allowed them to embed our products within their overall ecosystem. Today, we're a leading supplier of image analysis and AI. We work with the top 20 major pharmaceutical companies globally. We work with major academic and reference labs, hospitals, and other centers. Today, I'm focusing on the Halo AP platform. So that's the circle on the left of the screen. And this is our clinical IMS solution designed to deploy AI and analysis. So this is a relatively new product to the toolset from Indica. It was released and launched at the end of 2019. And as a relatively new product to the clinical landscape, it delivers some really exciting advantages. The first is that we were able to design and build this platform with the most modern technology available. That in itself is a huge benefit in an environment where a lot of these systems have been around for a long time. It allows us to really focus on interoperability and connectivity within a lab setting. The second and more arguably important thing that we were able to do was learn from those early adopters and implement changes required. So we could work with sites to address the pain points that they encountered with earlier systems. And finally, as our background and our expertise lies with image analysis and AI, we felt the time was right to support the deployment of that and the embedding of that in the clinical setting. So we would really see this as a next generation IMS. With that, we developed a number of really unique tools to support that vision. And one of these that I'm going to focus on is our custom assay builder or custom assay editor. And this allows institutions and organizations to define their own custom workflows. These can be quantitative workflows, qualitative workflows, or a combination of both. But ultimately, it supports the pathologist on reporting their cases in a linear fashion. It also supports with the embedding of analysis for those same pathologists. So you can deploy clinically relevant biomarker algorithms directly into that same workflow. The real focus is that pathologists have the right algorithm at the right time, assigned to the right sample, that they don't need to search around the system for what they should be using. That same custom assay builder allowed us to deploy artificial intelligence. And this supports not just clinically assistive AI, but also workflow AI. So things like using our pre-trained network for QCing samples before they are analyzed or before they go to a pathologist for review, completely reducing or eliminating the manual QC that happens today. And it can trigger other workflow events. So having technicians then rescan slides or even conduct a manual review of flagged slides. And the final thing I really just want to highlight about the Halo AP system is that it's open and interoperable. And this is a real focus again for our company and for the product. A pathologist should have a single interface to deploy any chosen algorithm and review the results of that algorithm. And today, Indica and IBEX announced a partnership that will enable pathologists to launch IBEX AI from the Halo AP interface. And not only that, but they'll receive the results and the markup images directly back into the same Halo AP interface, providing that seamless workflow. So I'm going to spend a few minutes just looking at the how this all sits together as a workflow. So we have the Halo AP system, and as mentioned, this is a fully functional IMS platform with the AI capability. There's a few things I want to highlight about the IMS side of things before we move on. So the first thing to say is that it's a vendor agnostic system. We support all of the major scanners and image formats, and there's always an up-to-date list available on our website. The system can run standalone, but in the clinical setting, it is designed for a bidirectional LIS integration. So it will bidirectionally communicate with your existing LIS, providing messaging on key case and patient data. The system has an integrated synoptic reporting template editor, and I talked about building qualitative workflows. This synoptic reporting editor allows you to use custom reports or pre-canned reports from the likes of RCPath or CAP and integrate them directly into your Halo AP workflow. We have tools to support the management and operation of multidisciplinary team meetings and various configurations and options around networking and sharing. And there is a lot more beyond, and I'd be happy to set up a more detailed demo with anyone. We've already discussed the assay editor and the assay configuration capability, and really it's this along with those fundamental tools within the IMS that support that clinical reporting workflow. But if we want to look at how we embed AI and analysis in there, there are a number of options. So the first is using Halo and Halo AI. Our customers use these tools to develop their own algorithms and their own classification tools. And this supports a huge range of options from IHC-ish spatial analysis right through to really core deep learning activities. These can be used in combination with our pre-trained networks. An example I've already given is that QC pre-trained network to screen samples prior to analysis. Any algorithms developed are locked down and validated, placed within that assay editor to define the workflow and delivered to the pathologist as a AI-supported reporting workflow. Now, we work with a lot of groups who develop their own custom neural networks also. So we wanted to make sure that this system give them an opportunity to deploy those in the clinical setting, obviously after going through their validation protocols. So we developed an integration engine, and this allows these custom neural networks to be plugged directly in and delivered right through that process to the pathologist, again, using the same interface in a seamless way. And finally, we've already touched on the IBEX partnership with Indica Labs, but we wanted to use that same integration engine to provide the opportunity for third-party organizations to deploy their algorithms. A pathologist should have access to algorithms and AI that they need, regardless of platform. And finally, we believe that the system should support the export of that really valuable clinically labeled data sets. So whether that's used for biobanking, for research, for ongoing development of algorithms and AI, the system is designed to allow you to quickly and easily export that data. So with that, I'd just like to finish up. Thank you all for your time, and I would again be more than happy to set up a more detailed demo if any of the components here are of interest. Many thanks.
Thanks very much. A wonderful presentation on Indica Labs, and just to encourage everyone to post any questions you may have in the Q&A, and we'll take a discussion of questions at the end. But we'll move on to our next presentation, which is Yuri from Aiforia, who, excellent, it's loaded your slides up.
So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to present Aiforia to you. Some of you may have heard of us, some of you have not. And I have looked at the program last 2 days, and really interesting to see this focus on AI. So I will not be spending so much time on the deep learning aspects of our solution and all that. What I wanted to do really is focus on the challenge that we have with real world pathology, as I call it today. And since it's a limited 10-minute slot, I thought it would be very interesting to focus on that particular point, because this is coming at us at the speed that we try to open up sites, and we digitize pathology labs around the world, really. So what is a challenge? And what I'm talking about really is this. What we see is a huge variation in your histopathology labs. And I know this is not new to you, but this is a very big challenge for AI companies and for the development of AI models going forward. So we see variations in slide thickness, for instance. We see variations in the intensity of stains, protocols, the depth of colors. There's a huge variation in there. And on top of all of that, there is a huge variation also in scanner sources, really, which will have a big impact on the actual visual aspects of a slide. And with that knowledge, and also with that experience that we have with Aiforia in the preclinical world, really, in the biomarker discovery and toxicology pathology work that we have done over the past few years, we've come to realize that this is going to be the biggest bottleneck going forward, introducing deep learning AI technology into the clinical diagnostic field. And that is why I want to focus on that today, because you do not only have the variation in each and every histology wet lab with the slide thickness, the staining intensity, and also the scanner variation. This is another topic. It is the ground truth that the individual pathologists hold true to diagnosis case. And I've just taken the most, to my knowledge, most subjective case here, which is prostate cancer. But I think that everybody would agree with me that a pathologist in the UK would have a different interpretation for over a Gleason grade 3 or 4 scoring if you compare that to a pathologist from Spain or Finland or Germany or even from the US. So that on top of all the variation that we already see in the wet lab brings another layer of, may I say, uncertainty when it comes to using AI assisted diagnostics into the real world of clinical pathology as we see that today. Now, obviously, I wouldn't be sharing this with you if there was not a solution. So I'll state the obvious here, there is a solution. And we believe that the solution is this, and I'll introduce this to you. What we believe is going to be the best working way forward and making this a reality to use AI-assisted diagnostics in practice is that we take a clinical AI model that, for instance, we trained that as a company together with a couple of pathologists from, let's say, Finland. Then in step number 1, we will take that AI model, what we call a core model, if you will. We will take that model into a lab in the UK, in London, in Manchester, wherever that may be, and then we adapt that model to local lab circumstances, right? So adapt it to the local wet lab, visual quality of the slides, to the scanner that you're using. And only when that model then is accepted by the pathologist that actually will be using that AI model for the diagnostic tasks, then we will run a validation trial in step number 2, actually making it ready to go into the clinical practice workflow. And that is not step number 3 when you really release it. Now, it doesn't end there, and obviously already from my slide here, but it doesn't end there because, as I've just stated, there is a huge variation in the clinical lab, in the histopathology lab, and that variation will continue to be variable, I think is the right word here. So you need to be able to continuously not only monitor how your AI model is actually performing in the real world, but you also need to be able to do quality control, but really also be able to adapt it. And that is what we bring today with Aiforia. This is what we propose for you, and to bring AI diagnostics into the real world of pathology, if you will. You need to be able to not only create an AI model, but you need to be able to continuously audit it and adapt it to changing circumstances. So that is what we call the Aiforia Clinical Suite. It's offering you AI-supported diagnostics. It offers you intelligence visualization, as well as automated screening and reporting tools. So let me dive in a little bit in more detail here. So what it really is one diagnostic platform with infinite clinical possibilities, really. And the Aiforia Clinical Suite consists of a couple of elements that I would like to highlight here. Obviously, it is a clinical AI model. You need that to do your diagnostics. But on top of that, there is a set of APIs that you need to integrate it seamlessly into your existing workflow with your local LIS, with your local PACS server and all that. And on top of it as well is a set of clinical viewer and reporting tools that will make a total and seamlessly integrated solution that does not only analyze your images, but also reports out the data that you need for your reports. As integral part of the Aiforia platform, we also bring that quality control and adaptation tool, really important, because very intuitive to use, very easy to use, very easy to manage and to really manage, monitor your quality control for auditing as well, and very important, compliant with FDA good machine learning practices. Now, the Aiforia Clinical Suite could be used as a pre-analysis screening tool, so to automatically prioritize cases, for instance, as well as a post-analysis screening tool to really act as a safety net. Both ways are really possible, and both ways allow you to be very flexible with using the Aiforia Clinical Suite and ease you, if I may use that word, ease you into using AI-assisted diagnostic tools into the real world lab. And this flexibility is really important to us because it allows you to adapt to the reality that you're facing, the variation in your wet lab, the variation in the scanner that you use. There may be variations in the source material that you receive, and still you would be able to use the AI models that we provide you with because you can adapt them on the fly and generalize them for your lab as such. Now, to tease you a little bit, I won't go into a lot of detail, but this is the overview of the AI models that we bring to market, not today, but in the next few months. I'm happy to say that our first Key 67 will be CE marked within the next 2 or 3 weeks coming up. Coming up is the rest of the ER, PR, HER2, and mitosis for the breast suite as well. So I expect that to happen over the next few months as well. And as well as the CE IVD mark for prostate cancer and lung cancer PD-L1. So that is, for Aiforia at least, a first start to bring our Aiforia Clinical Suite to the clinical practice. And we think that with these 7 algorithms, we have a very substantial portfolio to bring to market. Now, as I've only 10 minutes in this slot, I would just like to conclude this very speedy presentation and introduction to you with an introduction to our case-centric clinical viewer. And as an example, I used the prostate Gleason grade model that we have used, shown maybe to some of you already in the past. It is really designed specifically for any disease. So what we do with Aiforia, for each and every algorithm that we bring to market, we create a workflow around it that will allow you to easily navigate a case and to really use the optimal way for the AI model to work for you. This is the overviews page. So if you open up the prostate case with the Aiforia Clinical Suite, this is the view that you will get. So let me help you navigate through this little image here. So on the left top, you see an overview of the case. And in this particular case, it is 6 slides. And each slide, I know this is very small, perhaps for you to see, but each slide contains a 4 to 6 biopsy needle biopsies.
We're nearly at time, so
I'll wrap up in a second, in a minute. On the right-hand side, there is a grid overview for the malignant hotspot, and on the left-hand side, there is a report out of all the quantitative information that you can have from the case. So if a pathologist does zoom in into a slide, you get the overview of all the hotspots, and zooming into a hotspot, the system will present you with a heat map overlay, which you can toggle on and off to inspect the tissue yourself and come to your own conclusions, as well as to see what does the AI predict that this tissue really is it Gleason 4 or Gleason 5. And as I've mentioned before, this ground truth is really up to you, and we can adapt that fully to your local lab and to your own preferences to use in the clinical practice. And with that, I would like to thank you for your time and attention. And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you'd like to have more details on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Yuri. That was very, very detailed. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
We shall move on and to Emmanuel Lubet, who is presenting for TRIBVN. Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, David. Let me start sharing my screen here. Hopefully everybody is seeing my slide. Perfect. So first, I would like to thank you, the PathLAKE team and David as well, offering the opportunity to share our vision a little bit, talking about TRIBVN and what we do in digital pathology and computational pathology. Just a quick overview on who we are. We're a software company. We're based in France. You can hear my French accent, obviously. And so we've been around for many years, actually, and supplying medical school, university at the start, and moving towards the clinical aspect of that, obviously. And we can count now more than 40 people. We are based in Paris for the European operation, and have also an entity in Montreal, as we're working with one of our main customers and main partners, the University Hospital of Montreal. And we completely see IVD, and we really here to try to implement and to help everybody to implement the digital pathology. What is really, very important as well is to make sure we can answer that growing market as well. So we have set up a scientific medical board with some people from prestigious institute, the Greater Paris Hospital, the Erasmus University Hospital in Brussels, and the Radboud University as well in Netherlands. They're here really to keep us on track and to make sure we can answer the needs and regarding AI, regarding computational pathology, turning the transition to go digital as well, to make sure we answer the need of the consultants. Just here that slide is really to explain what is our vision, what is our main at TRIBVN Healthcare. So like I said, we've been around for many years, and we are evolved. Our solution and our spirit, our momentum has evolved. So we want really to be part of that cycle, what we need of cancer process, but obviously for disease or pathology, histopathology process as well. Here we want to be able to be part of the clinical, the data management as well, and the research, as we've been around for many years. What we do is we do have an IMS, and we want to have the clinicians to turn away the Microsoft and go in digital and embrace the digital tool, the image analysis tools as well, as long as they regulate and they have the CE or the FDA marking, obviously. But we want also to make sure you don't get rid of all the data that you're going to create with all the whole slide imaging. So we want to be able to help you also to create that data lake or that asset, to make sure you can, and PathLAKE is it's obviously all around that, and to make sure you can also develop your own algorithm with your own team. And after that, data are going to feed up the research, and research we here to develop, and we have some partners, like I said, the Radboud University, Greater Paris Hospital help us as well to develop that kind of computational pathology algorithm, to find new biomarkers, new way of treatment, and to feed up again the clinical aspect. In order to do that, we at TRIBVN, it's very important for us to be able to be completely agnostic, to be vendor neutral to any other aspect of the chain in digital pathology. So that's why we can work with everyone, and we want to put the diagnostic or the workstation, the digital workstation with AI, with image analysis at the center of your reflection when you want to transition to digital, obviously. So we're here to can supply and all the different aspects with AI, storage, list, scanners, integration, and be sure we seamlessly integrate it to your workflow. That's the TRIBVN Healthcare portfolio. So on the left-hand side at the top, you got Calopix and Calopix Archive. They are the main product for us at the moment. Calopix is a workstation powered by AI, obviously, in machine learning as well. It's been used in clinical aspect, but it's been used as well in research. In research with some machine learning algorithm that can be set up within the university or research center. Calopix Archive it's a slide life cycle management tools to make sure you can enjoy and you can get some time and archive is stored for a pretty long time with a cost-effective storage algorithm as well. Macro for grossing imaging, and on the bottom you got TSLide, TSM Multimedia. It's two different platforms for organizing, following GDPR and following patient security, patient data security for telemedicine and telepathology network. Multimedia is our tool to make sure university can embrace to go digital as well and teach and train the new generation, the next generation with that kind of technology. Obviously, in TRIBVN, we have two approaches of AI. So we've been developing with our own team a set of own algorithm in-house development. We have now we're growing team with 5 or 6 people now, and definitely we want to be able to create our own algorithm and to put them on the market. The algorithm you can see here. And I got another slide after that. Reached to be CE mark by the beginning of 2022, and by that time we will be able to offer you fully integrated to our platform a set of algorithms for AI. But obviously we know we can't do everything by ourselves, so we need to be open. With API, we open and discussing with other startups that you see today, and obviously because there is so many specialty in histopathology that we can tackle just only by ourselves. Just to give you just a little bit of taste on what would be the workflow for us. Definitely, at the end of the day, as a histopathology consultant, you will be in front of your workstation, like you are right now with your microscope. We want to be able to on the environment the digital environment that you will see the slide will show you automatically the result of the AI, and you can validate or unvalidate, obviously, the results, cell counting, cells recognition, tissue recognition, that kind of things will be very, very helpful. And obviously that results, if you're happy with it, will be validated by yourself and integrating into the report afterwards. Here, obviously the two main algorithms that we're working on, the key I67 with the old suite for breast cancer that we be developing with a Greater Paris Hospital with the Kremlin-Bicêtre exactly, and also the sorting identification digestive biopsy. That's two different way of doing AI with counting and cell recognition and sorting identification of more of the pattern for biopsy, for digestive biopsy.
Okay, thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks very much for that great presentation, and thank you to all of our industry speakers for presenting today, and particularly in this afternoon's session. I'm going to open the floor to the panel discussion now. So we have a few questions from the audience.
I'm going to start off with this question. The top voted question at the moment is, how do industry panelists feel about lowering the barrier to allow pathologists to use libraries to develop their own algorithms? Who wants to take that one?
I'm happy to take that one, David.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, so certainly from our point of view, we've gone down the route for the last 10 years of allowing pathologists and pathology groups to develop their own algorithms using the Halo and the Halo AI tools. And as part of what we're doing with the clinical aspect is allowing the integration of custom neural networks that are being developed in groups within academic medical centers. But I would say the aim for us is that pathologists are as closely tied to this workflow of algorithm development as feasibly possible.
You don't feel that pathologists may be slightly challenged in their abilities to develop these algorithms?
I think there's definitely a combination of working together, bringing the right tool sets to the process. Certainly the pathologists have that clinical expertise, where you've got your computational experts that can support in the implementation.
Okay. Thanks, Katie. There was a question earlier on today. I haven't got it in front of me right now, but it was along the lines of, I don't doubt the science, but how much is it going to cost to implement these algorithms into practice? So, so you've all presented some solutions there which are relevant to current day clinical practice. What's it going to cost us? I'd like to take that one, David. Go on, Yuri. You can have first shout. Well, that is. I was just. I'd like to answer that because nobody knows really, and that is a good question. And that is actually the challenge that is ahead of us, because what we are doing right now is uncharted territory, right? We are developing these algorithms, we are implementing them in clinical practice. And what we do right now, literally, is sit down next to the pathologist with a stopwatch to figure out, okay, how much time do you spend on really diagnosing the case with or without AI diagnostics, right? And obviously, implementing it really depends also, the cost depends on how you implement it, because I think very clear from our point of view, we provide a cloud-based service. So that means you don't have to invest your own hardware. That makes it rather easy access, I would say, and probably much cheaper than you would need to invest in your own hardware, GPU servers, and so on. So that is another aspect of it. So definitely very interesting question, and definitely one of the first things that we try to answer, but very pragmatically, if you would only shave off 30 seconds per case, you can do the math. It is going to pay for itself. Okay, thank you. Anyone else got an answer to that question?
Yeah, I would just echo the same sentiment. It's really as long as a piece of string. It's difficult to put a price on these technologies, especially when there are so many configurations. The way in which these can be deployed varies so widely. And there's the wider ecosystem, right? There's the entire technology front end and back end with your LIMS integrations, your scanner technology, your hardware, as mentioned. So, yeah, certainly it's something that can be addressed one-to-one.
Yeah, and if I can add on that, AI is all about diagnostic also and cell recognition, tissue recognition to help the pathology to do a diagnostic, but also you can find some AI regarding how you can set up you can set up the work list with the priorities, the case priorities, etc. So there is different user case or business case that we should implement right away just to make sure where exactly you can save some time, you can save some money at the end of the day, and what would be the benefit for the patient at the end.
So work in progress, I think, in terms of costing these tools in real time. Okay, I'm going to move on to raise a question now about regulatory landscapes. There's a question here. What are the regulatory landscapes for digital pathology AI in the US and the EU and the rest of the world? So no small questions there. But perhaps start with clarification. Some of you mentioned CE-IVD marking. What does CE-IVD marking actually give us? What is it actually regulating?
Can I try and answer that, David, as well?
Yep. it is very flexible to my mind. What it means is that you perform a clinical trial, and I'm not a regulatory specialist, so please don't hold that against me. What you do is you perform a clinical trial, and in most of the cases it's just to show that the AI model works at least as good as the pathologist does, right? So there is this non-inferiority criterion that you would use. And you would have this AI model to be at least 80 to 90% accurate to what the human pathologist would do. So what it comes doan to, or what it boils down to, is you take a fixed set of slides and you have a fixed lab equipment and a certain scanner. You do the clinical trial, so you judge, you score the cases. You have a 2 weeks washout period. You score them again with the AI, and that is the data that you publish, and then you have a CE mark. So in my mind, it is really benchmarking you as a company as a quality standard. It allows you to market your company as such. It allows you to sell it in the clinical space. And again, I'm not a regulatory specialist, so I hope I'm not there's someone in the crowd that is going to hold that against me. But that is what the current regulations are. And then for the FDA, it's more strict, but it boils down to the same, kind of.
Would this fit down to the level of individual assays and individual antibodies or biomarkers? Thinking, for example, the PDL1 space has several different antibodies and different levels of marking in different tumor sites. Is a single algorithm going to cover all of those, or is it going to be individual for each particular one?
Well, those are the discussions that we are currently having with the regulatory bodies, because, like I presented today, the reality is that the AI models need to be adapted to the reality of the lab. So as soon as you have CE mark for an algorithm, you're about to change it for a particular lab. So the CE mark is no longer valid in reality and in theory. So that is going to be the challenge. How do we then take that into consideration? And I believe that FDA specifically right now is trying to find ways we have a framework of good machine learning practice. We have a framework of ISO certification. So it is this entire environment of regulation that will help us to do this. But in all honesty, having CE mark for an algorithm is going to be quite tough in that sense.
Thanks, Yuri. I think we've asked most of the questions which have been tabled so far. There'll be a few more coming in, I'm sure, but I've got a question of my own, which I think I'm going to use this opportunity to ask. And that is, we've seen quite a lot of data this afternoon presented on management of artifacts and imperfections in slide preparation of one sort or another. My question is this: what quality control measures are you, as in suppliers, putting into your equipment to control for these variabilities in slide production, and more importantly, I guess, in slide scanning as well?
Yeah, so I'm happy to kick that off. So we've really recognized that problem, and I think it was highlighted very well earlier that the quality of samples is just integral to the downstream processes. So we have a pre-trained QC network that we can deploy in an organization as part of the Halo AP workflow that will pre-screen the samples for various different types of non-analyzable areas. But even from a pathologist manual review point of view, whipping out those slides that are out of focus or that potentially aren't good enough to be seen for manual review. But that's definitely an area that we're currently developing along with academic partners to make sure that we can build the most robust QC algorithm possible.
David, I'd like to take the opportunity to echo Katie's words here. We have the ambition. In the end, I think the added value for AI-assisted diagnostics is you're able to really analyze all of the slides that come out of the scanner, to be very honest. If it's just one application in a corner, nobody's going to use it just for breast Ki-67, right? That's not the reality. The reality is that you need to analyze each and every digital slide. So QC is an integral part of that process, and then to be able to distribute the slides and do the downstream analysis. So definitely also has Aiforia's attention to integrate that into the platform. There's various ways of doing that, but one step obviously is out of focus ranges and all that, the real quality of the image itself, and then tissue folds and all that, but that is definitely on our radar as well.
If I can add on that, definitely you probably see on the slide of the workflow that I showed earlier, that definitely the QC is mandatory for us, and our AI team is working definitely to have a previous viewing, like very similar that on what Katie was saying, in before definitely showing off the results of the AI. So that's something really we need to working on, and like Joey said, there's so many applications that we need to tackle for the QC. So and that's really something that we need to be aware of. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you very much. I think we've reached the end of the.
Just to say that we have Jim from Visiopharm and Richard from IBEX on the line as well, if they would like to field any of the questions in the next minute or two.
Thank you. Thanks, Nasir. Shout out, guys, if you've got anything to add to that.
Yeah, hi David, this is Richard. Yeah, just to add to that, yeah, we do provide, as part of what Stuart presented earlier, we already provide a QC in terms of out of focus images as part of the IBEX platform. So when we take an image from the scanner that we don't then believe is good enough for analysis, we will screen that out, but also flag that to the technical team in the lab to use that data, not for practical sense, for triggering a rescan, for example, if it's out of focus. So we can not just use that in terms of quality, but also direct that to a practical workflow of rescanning, pre-pathology to review, of course. So that's just something to add there.
Thanks, Richard. Jim, you there? I think we might have lost Jim. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that, and I think that probably brings to the end this panel discussion. So I'm going to hand over to Nasir for closing comments. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thanks all the industry speakers for wonderful talks. I just want to thank all the speakers and presenters for the entire 2 days of masterclasses. We've had some really stimulating discussions, and we've had some really fascinating stuff presented, really showing the way for where the field of computational pathology, digital pathology is heading. So much to look forward to. So really would like to thank all our presenters, all our speakers, and industrial vendors coming in and showing off all of their fantastic new toys. And last but not the least, of course, our classical machine learning tutor, Abhir Palirao, our deep learning tutor, Fayaz Minhas, and our hands-on session presenters who put in huge amount of effort, I know, behind the scenes for preparing all the pre-study material and all the demos that they produced for our audience on Tuesday on the classical machine learning side, Andrew and Scott, and then today on the deep learning side, the TIA Toolbox team led by Sean, joined by Simon, John, Mustafa, and Deng. Really fantastic effort. All of the guys very much appreciate that. Hopefully we can get back to a proper in-person kind of masterclasses for our next edition. So watch out for that. As announced before, we will be making most of this material available. So you will be contacted with links to video lectures and study material and notebooks that were presented here, all the links that were shared during the course of the discussions. And one final really important thank you to Hannah Blackburn and Jonathan Brady for all their hard work in making this whole program possible. Qian Liao also did some work in the beginning on the masterclasses program and putting together the whole program. and also our Warwick Conferences team. So really nice to see this virtual event come together and come to a close successfully, just under 100 people still staying up until this last minute. So thank you very much again. And I'm sure this won't be the last you will hear from us. There will be more, and we'll be in touch. Bye-bye.